all of us are coming to the table with our own sets of traumas, experiences. And if we just take time to just be nice and kind, how that allows us, it sets us up for success for other conversations. It sets us up for success for really being connected and to really help one another out. That's what team is.
I'm Amy Woodall, and this is The Conscious Habit, a show from the People Forward Network. We're teaching you how to incorporate love and consciousness at work, at home, and the world at large.
You just heard from Andrea Moorhead Allen. Andrea is a 7-time Emmy Award-winning journalist, former television news anchor, and president of Clover Lane Media. She serves as a producer for various television shows, HSN brand ambassador, and branded content creator for companies specializing in beauty, fashion, home goods, travel, and wellness. In this conversation, we dive into workplace bullying and discrimination. We talk about how to thrive in your life with practical examples for connecting with yourself by paying attention to your mind, body, and spirit. We talk about the importance of feeling heard and taking agency in your life, and how to step into and have courageous conversations. Spoiler alert, the key is kindness and clarity. Take a listen.
Hey, Conscious Habit listeners, Desiree Garcia and I are back with another interview with an incredible, insightful human. Des and I are really excited to get to learn from Andrea Moorhead Allen, who joins us today. Des, you had a chance to do a really insightful little pre-interview with Andrea. So I'd love for you to just kind of kick us off and share with you what's on your mind. And then we get to learn more from Miss Andrea.
Absolutely. I'm so excited about this conversation. We had our kickoff call and connected and laughed and shared and instant bond. So at least on my part, Andrea, you got to watch out because when these things happen, you're not likely to shake me.
That's right.
So you're warning right there.
Same here. I'm here forever. I'm yours forever.
Yeah. I love it. Well, we're so excited to have you here. And I wanted to start right out of the gate and talk a little bit about, share your story. How did you arrive here?
Oh my gosh. Question is, how much time do you have? It all started, I would say, probably back in 2005. I would say this has been a 15-year-long journey that I never signed up for. I never knew that I would go through this, but I am here. And it's one of the main reasons why I am sharing my story to people, because there's so many people out there all across the world who are experiencing workplace abuse, bullying, discrimination, retaliation, all of the horrible, unconscionable actions that human beings sometimes intentionally participate in. And I needed to know that it wasn't just me. I want people to know that it's not just you, that you're not crazy, that this is not just in your head. And so I was in the very competitive environment of television news. And as a result of that, the competition sometimes overrides, unfortunately, humanity. So yeah, I was caught in the quagmire of workplace abuse and had no idea what it was. I knew that it didn't feel good. I knew that something was wrong. And I knew that it was wrong. The way I was being treated was wrong. And so after a series of aggregate of experiences, whether it was the manipulation, the gaslighting, the blatant lies, the lack of access to producers, photographers, my inability to do my job and to perform at my high level best, that's when it became clear to me one night, I'll never forget it, the trauma of it all literally encapsulated my heart and my soul. And I told my husband, I said, I've got to go see someone, because if not, I don't know if I will be here again. I literally saw my body at the top of a mountain with 1 foot off and looking at my body at the bottom. And I remember crying, telling my husband, I don't know why I can't get support. I don't know why they're doing this to me. I need to go speak to someone, because praying with you and talking with my mom and dad and my in-laws and other family members were very clear about what had been going on for a very long time. Something wasn't connecting. I just could not stop ruminating over everything that was going on. And I told my husband, I said, I have to talk to someone outside of family. I said, I need to know that this is not in my head. I need to know that I'm not to blame. I need to know that I can get to the other side and continue to live a life that I deserve, that all of us deserve, which is a life of thriving. And after meeting with, I sought actually 2 different therapists. One said, it's in your head. This isn't a real thing. The second person said, well, yeah, this goes on, but basically you just need to put your big girl panties on and just deal with it because this is the workplace culture. And the third person, who is the woman who I will say every single day saved my life and the reason I'm here and alive to talk about my story. After sharing a couple of the experiences, I'll never forget, she looked to the left, grabbed a tissue. She began to cry, and she looked at me and she says, you should be dead right now. Everything that you're telling me, you should be dead right now. And for about 15 minutes, she cried along with me because she literally said, you should be dead. And when she clearly said, what you are experiencing is classic workplace abuse, it was like a light bulb went off. And it began to make sense. It literally began to make sense. And from that moment, it took another 1.5 years before I finally had the courage to walk away. But over the course of therapy and watching the continued unconscionable behavior take place at my expense, it became very, very clear that it was intentional. And it also became clear that I was beginning to become more courageous and bold and powerful in my level of effrontery, my level of my spirit, the ability to speak truth to power. I began to see it for what it was. And I'll never forget, June 5th, 2020, I did a story about George Floyd speaking with women of all races and diverse backgrounds about his murder. And one of the most pivotal moments in my story was how women were consciously responding to George Floyd crying out for his mother, saying, "Mama, help me. Mama, help me." And after the story was filed, it hit me that I was actually like George Floyd. I had been crying out for help. I had been asking for help. They didn't hear me. They didn't see me. They intentionally chose to turn a blind eye. And it was like their knee was on my neck and I couldn't breathe. And as a journalist, I said to myself, I feel like a hypocrite telling and sharing a story that is really my story. And in that moment, God literally spoke to me and said, this is it. This is it. It's time for you to go. And in that moment at 6:37 p.m., I was talking with my producer about preparing for the next week. This was a Friday. And as soon as we hung up, she says, let me know what you're going to do for next week. We'll get it on the docket. I said, sure. And as soon as I said, sure, I hung up the phone and I said to myself, I'm done. I walked downstairs, told my husband, I'm never going back. And I've never stepped foot in that station since June 5th of 2020. I would do it all over again, because I spend my mornings and my days and even my nights speaking to people and encouraging them, letting them know that you're not alone. You're not crazy. This is a real systemic issue in our world. And we are going to support you and walk you through this because you deserve better. You deserve better. We all deserve better. And so I'm part of this advocacy group where I spend my time joyfully helping people get to the other side. Because so many times when you're living through it, you just wonder, am I ever going to get to the other side? Will I ever thrive again? And while the healing journey is long suffering, while the triggers continue on a daily basis, I am so happy that I finally went through the process of healing. And I continue to heal. It probably will be a lifelong journey for me because the triggers are real. The trauma is real. And yet I am encouraged every single day knowing that because I told my story, people go, wow, if this can happen to you, then I know it's happening to me. I know this is real. And I believe that we are gathering a collective of people who are consciously, intentionally speaking about this and making sure that we are on the forefront of creating a movement to change lives and to hold companies and people accountable. And we're doing so with the Workplace Psychological Safety Act that we hope will be able to be passed in states around the country and eventually on the federal level, because current discrimination laws do not protect employees. Everything is set up to benefit companies and not the employees. So many people who believe they have a case, who can clearly prove, like myself, I have evidence, I have receipts. None of it mattered because you couldn't prove intent. And for a racial discrimination case, proving intent is very, very difficult. The benchmark is, did they call you the N-word? Or did they put a noose on your desk? And if those two things did not happen, I cannot prove that the aggregate of all of these moments and experiences and unconscionable behaviors and actions intentionally, because they were intentional about doing it, it doesn't rise on a federal level to say that there was discrimination. And so I had to make a choice in my situation. I did sue them federally in federal court. And at the 11th hour, I decided to drop the case because I knew that I could not prove technically intent and that the case would have been dismissed and they would have received what's called a summary judgment. And they would have been able to say to the public, oh, nothing happened here. Andrea was just telling lies. And what I will never allow someone to do is to lie about me, to lie about my work ethic, to lie about my career that I worked hard for since I was in 4th grade and knew that I wanted to be a journalist. What you're never going to do is lie about me. In companies and managers and HR departments, it is a game they play. It's part of their playbook. And so many people feel helpless against standing up to big business because the federal laws are written in their favor and they know it. And so I'm part of this group to make sure that everyone else knows that this is unfair. It's not right. It should be a crime, just like sexual abuse is, just like, physical abuse. Those are crimes. Those are domestic crimes of people. And psychological abuse is the same thing. It is the same thing. And so we need to begin to continue to talk about this, continue to educate people, bring awareness so that people understand that there's nothing we can do right now. But if all of us collectively share our stories and continue to, be part of this grassroots effort to change laws, eventually, I truly believe it will happen. It took a while before we realized that domestic violence was indeed a crime. It took a while. And so we're in this for the long haul. We're in this for the long haul. So that's my story. I never wanted to be part of this group necessarily. No one ever wants to be part of this group, but I was called. I truly believe I was called because I believe that God knew that through my breast cancer journey, that I would have the resiliency and the perseverance to push through. If I can win that, this is small potatoes. If I can push through and win cancer and battle and fight cancer and win, I'm still in remission, thank God. I can win and continue to fight for this. This is simple. This is easy. So it was meant to be. This was part of my purpose, and I'm in the fight forever.
Well, you're truly a warrior for what you've gone through to endure all of that, just the perseverance and the courage and then even the courage and the confidence once you did have that awakening to say, no, enough is enough. I'm really curious about, if we go back just a bit, it sounds like these things were happening, but it took maybe some affirmation of that for you to realize. And I want to ask the question from the place of, if you're in that type of a situation, but you don't have that resource, how do you not dismiss what's happening and know, hey, something's not right here?
That's such a loaded question because there's no one answer. And that is the issue that so many people deal with. It's, well, how do I prove it? How do I know that what I feel is right? And I always say that your gut, your heart, your soul is speaking to you. Your soul is exhausted because you've been trying to figure out how to navigate around this. And the bottom line is, you're kind of in a no-win situation because they're in a position of power. They are in a position of power. They are your employer, HR. They are there to help protect the company. And talking about what you're going through and asking for accountability, companies know that technically they don't have to. If you're one person versus the room of flying monkeys in management and HR who have all conspired and decided to speak a narrative against you, it's almost kind of like David and Goliath. I mean, how are you going to win? But I tell people that even though you are David and even though the company is Goliath, we know how this story ends. David does win. David does win. But winning doesn't necessarily always mean winning a lawsuit. Winning doesn't necessarily mean people are being fired. Winning doesn't necessarily mean accountability. For me, I've told people time and time again that justice is defined by the person who seeks it. While from a legal perspective, we say justice is, I'm suing them and I'm going to win and I'm going to get a settlement. Justice is defined by the person who seeks it. So what makes me, what fulfills me in terms of what justice looks like may be something different for someone else. And so it's very difficult for people to realize that what is happening is an offense to humanity and an offense to your soul. And I tell people all the time that your gut is telling you, your body is telling you, your mind is telling you. And there are so many people who are seeing the physical manifestations of workplace bullying, which is hair loss, hypertension, high blood pressure, even cancer. I believe to this very day that I got breast cancer because of the stress. Your body is telling you that you are in danger. Your body is telling you that you are in danger. When your soul is exhausted, you are in danger. There's so many symptoms, physical manifestations of workplace bullying. That is your answer. That's your answer. That's how you know that you're in the wrong place, that the toxicity is hurting your body, both mentally and physically. And if you don't leave, because the likelihood is the environment will not change, if you don't leave, you will surrender to the bullying. Your body, your mind, and your soul, you will not be the person who God, I believe, intended for all of us to be. And that is to be people of purpose and people who are able to thrive. That is our birthright. We were born with that birthright. And doggone it, I'm not going to allow anyone to take that away from me, ever. So the beauty of having gone through this experience is that for many people who have been through workplace bullying and discrimination, they all say now that because of that experience, I'm a better human being. My level of kindness and compassion is through the roof. My level of being consciously intentional about who I speak with, how I speak, what I do, who I collaborate with is very clear. So I'm now in a position in life where I can tell and feel and sense whether or not this is going to be good for me. And I can walk away without any excuses. Just walk away without any excuses and to feel settled in my soul that I've made the right decision.
Andrea, what I hear from you is you have learned how to trust you more. And I've said this recently, and it was an aha for myself, but also talking with other people, that I think that burnout can be a byproduct of us abandoning ourselves and of abandoning our inner knowing. This is wrong. This isn't right. I'm not meant to be here. What was your path from, being in this place where really, you're being bullied, it's workplace abuse, it's a lot of power snatching that's happening. And what was your process from going from, they're trying to steal my light and I'll be damned if it's going to happen, once you had some validation of it's not all in my head, okay, there's nothing more I can do. What was your process for the reclaiming of that and getting to this place of a powerful knowing? What did that look like for you?
I think the first thing that everyone needs to do if you're going through a situation like this is to be honest with yourself, And honesty is not just in your heart, it's being able to speak it. Because there's a freedom and there's a power when you're able to say exactly what it is. And that was one of the very first things that I did as part of my healing journey, is to say, it is what it is. I don't care what you say, because you're going to deny all the time. But it is what it is. And if it makes you look bad, that's not my fault. That's on you. My responsibility is to myself. My responsibility is to self-advocate and to choose joy. And I'm no longer joyful in this environment, and I have chosen myself. So that was the very first thing for me, is to recognize, to speak truth to power, to audibly say it, to audibly talk about it, because it literally is a silent killer. So many people go through this, but we don't talk about it because we think it's just us, that we've done something wrong. And so that is the first process, is to admit it to yourself, to speak truth to power, to audibly say it, even if it's not audible, maybe even in a journal, keeping notations of what happened to you so that you can go back and see the progress from beginning to end or beginning to middle and to see how you're continuing to grow. The second thing is to definitely get a therapist. So many times in life, especially for people of color, that is not something that we typically do necessarily. A lot of us, from a cultural standpoint, we pray, we go to church, we ask our pastor, our family, and our friends to pray for me, pray for me. And yet I believe that God has allowed all of us to have, different people to have, the ability to help us with our brain and with our mind, that this goes beyond just having a faith perspective. This is about human nature. And I need someone to help me walk through the process of retraining my mind. So I had to go through EMDR therapy as well to understand that, again, this was not me. So, I've had several therapists and I never again thought that I would ever need that. But mental health really matters. Companies talk a good game. We see commercials about if you're having mental health problems, go see someone. We hear all the time on radio about different companies that are providing mental health. But yet when you speak about this aspect of mental health, no one wants to believe us. And we want to say, oh, well, that's you. No, it's not you. My mind has been bullied because of the way you've been treating me. And this is not right. So first thing is admit it to yourself, speak truth to power, talk about it. Second thing is to specifically to speak to someone who can help work you through the process. And the third thing is to own your feelings. You will have a roller coaster of emotions. And I still have them to this day. There are certain names that I'm triggered by. There are certain events that I see, even on a national level, that are triggering for me. And I have to constantly work through those feelings. And it's okay to be angry. I think so many times, especially as women, we're like, be the good girl and, don't show your feelings. And no one wants to hear that. Don't complain. And we're told to just put on your big girl panties. And I say putting on your big girl panties is being honest. It's being honest. It's being honest with yourself. It's being honest with other people and not being afraid to speak truth. Truth is a defense, always. People can say whatever they want to, but when you are armed with the truth, I believe it gives you the power to continue to be bold enough to speak, to be unbossed, to be unbothered. I'm no longer bothered by the he's, the she's, and what they're saying because I know the truth. And at the end of the day, they know the truth too. They know the truth too. They're just in a position of trying to maintain the public perception. And I get it. But the truth will set you free. I would rather be part of an organization where we can have real uncomfortable conversations, for there to be truly an open environment where we can speak truth to power and talk about things that are happening and saying, how do we move? How do we navigate? How can we make this a win-win for everyone? And to be open to change, to do our work intentionally to change. That has to be at the forefront of any organization. And it's where we don't want to be honest with ourselves because we don't want to look at the man or the woman in the mirror and to say, you know what, I played a role in that and I need to apologize so that I can move forward, so that I can be healed as the abuser, because I want to give people a chance to right the wrongs. But to deny is absolutely wrong. Absolutely wrong. So it's speaking truth to power, being honest with yourself, speaking up. It's therapy. It's feeling and owning your feelings. And it's okay to be angry. It's okay to be angry.
Ladies, imagine taking time away to work on you. Meditation, yoga, transformational work, a chance to have grand adventures and build lasting relationships. Desiree Garcia and I founded High Vibe Tribe Retreats to create just that. And if you're curious about joining us on our next retreat, head over to highvibetriberetreat.com, link in the show notes. Des has such a great, it's a phrase, right? When somebody's going through it, she's like, it's okay to sit in the shit. It's really okay to, and Des, the work that we do on our retreats is very much like helping people feel okay with just feel the emotion. As women, I think we often think we have to problem solve the emotion. What do I need to do next? And sometimes it's like, just honor it in your body. Just feel it, let it be there, sit in the shit. Des, thank you for teaching me that. I practice that multiple times a week,
welcome.
sister.
It feels good. Doesn't it feel good though? Like when you
It
sit in
does.
and you're like, it is what it is. This is what I'm feeling. It is what it is. I will tell you, there's something that my therapist asked me to do because I was so angry. And I realized too that I needed help when there was a situation where I had so much anger and animus in my heart and spirit because I knew what was going on, that the manifestation of that anger was coming out in a way that really kind of shocked me, where I wanted to physically hurt someone. And I'm just keeping it real, where the spirit of what was happening, and I saw it, and to see it in my face, I wanted to hurt someone. And that's when I said, okay, something's going on. I need to see someone. And when I shared that with my therapist, she said, it's okay. Like, those are real human feelings. It didn't mean that you were going to do it. It just meant you felt it and you had the wherewithal to say, okay, how do I get past this? And so it's a very easy exercise that still works. And I still use it to this day when I am triggered and I have a moment, because there are those days sometimes. She said, write those people's names on a sheet of paper. Write that experience on a sheet of paper. Get your golf clubs and just beat it. And I went, what? I said, wait a minute. What does that mean? She goes, what I just said. She's like, it's very simple. Write the name and or the experience on a sheet of paper. Get your husband's golf club. Even though I have my own. She's like, get your husband's golf club. It's just like, and just beat it. And so I did. I put all of these names as well as the experiences on a sheet of paper. I had about 30 of them. And I literally, at each one, I would say how I felt, because I knew that I would never have the conversation with them personally. So I had the conversation with myself. And I'm telling you, ladies, did that work? Oh my goodness. It was so healing. It was so cathartic. It was so healing. So I suggest to anyone, write it down and beat the heck out of it.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. That's great. Such a great reminder. I think about like pillows. I'm like, no, punch this pillow. I'm really curious about your thoughts, thinking about workplaces. I mean, so Amy and I work a lot in corporate America. We do our retreats as well, work with a lot of execs. And you mentioned the Workplace Psych Safety Act. What are your best pointers for folks that are in the workplace to continually foster a psychologically safe workplace?
To do that, it means that you have to admit that we're all human. That's the very first step. That where there are human beings, we're not going to always get it right. And that's okay. But it is incumbent upon all of us to, in order to create a psychologically safe workplace, to have those uncomfortable conversations. When an issue happens, whether it includes HR or management or whoever it is, for there to be a meeting of the minds, for us to talk about it, to discuss it. And even if we may not agree, we can at least understand each other, talk about it, and hopefully prepare a way out to not just navigate around it, but to go through it so that this doesn't happen again. And that's the part that really befuddles me. I'm like, we've got the answer. It's really simple. It just calls for us to be kind, for us to be compassionate, for us to be honest, for us to have those conversations, for all of us to be on the same page. And the realization is that a lot of workplaces, they manage, it should be from the top down. And 9 times out of 10, the top is involved in exacting the bullying by refusing to hold people accountable and sticking their heads in the mud, putting blindfolds on and stuffing their ears with something where they can't hear. It's refusing to see, hear, and believe the truth of people's experiences. So it just really requires all of us to be on the same page, to say that, you know what, I want to create a safe workplace. What businesses fail to realize is that if you create a psychologically safe workplace, you're going to get the best of the best, the cream of the crop. Your employees will go above and beyond for you. They will be excited to go to work. They will be excited to be their authentic selves, to be not just at the table, but to eat at the table and to bring a meal the next time. They will be excited to see the business succeed because you're helping them to succeed. And so businesses need to realize that this is a win-win for everyone. No one loses. Don't you want to be part of a winning team? So this conversation about we're a family and we're a team and we support you. Don't say it. Show me. Don't just say it. Don't put it on in a frame on the board in the break room that says, we support integrity and respect and dignity. No, you don't. No, you don't. Because your actions are showing me by virtue of my coming to you and telling you here's an issue, and you're just putting your head in the sand and walking away like nothing to see here. You're telling me that you really don't respect me. You don't support me. You don't want to provide a safe place for me and all of us together. And so where there is a spirit of what I call competitiveness, where there is a spirit of jealousy and intimidation, there's no room for authenticity, and there's no room for us to be honest with each other. And I am just such a proponent of kindness. And from kindness, that allows all of us to see each other for who we are. I've got a great little story that just happened to me last week. A girlfriend of mine who is in the pharma business, she had to go to an event down south. All of the managers, all of them work remotely, and this is their first time kind of seeing each other in the space. And one of the young men that she saw for the first time in person, she said, oh my God, she called me. She goes, oh my God, there's one guy. He's cool on remote, but, when I met him, he wasn't very, personable. I don't think he likes me. And I go, well, what makes you think that? And she says, I don't know. It's just a vibe. And I said, have you ever thought that maybe he is socially awkward? Because there are a lot of people who are introverts and they're just not able to work in a work environment with a lot of people, they're a little shy perhaps. And she's like, I don't know. So over the course of 4 days, they were here for this retreat for 4 days. And over the course of 4 days, they kind of organically were sitting next to each other from time to time. And so she was saying, hey, how are you? And, they would exchange pleasantries. And when it was time to go, he came over to her little area of her stall where she was sitting in the meeting room. And he says, hey, it was really good to meet you in person. He kind of gave her another little hug. It was a little awkward still, but, reached in. And she said it was great meeting you as well. And so he walked away and he came back and he said, can I tell you something? This woman goes, sure. He says, I just want to let you know that I really appreciate you giving me some of the compliments that you made to me this past week. She goes, well, what do you mean? He goes, well, you told me that you liked my socks one day and the next day you told me that, you liked my outfit. And he says, I just want you to know that that really helped my self-esteem and I thank you. And I said, oh my gosh. I said, are you kidding me? And so she says, Andrea, it just made me feel so good because I genuinely liked his outfit. She's a fashionista. So she's like, I genuinely liked his outfits. I wasn't lying. I really did. But it just goes to show you that all of us are coming to the table with our own sets of traumas, experiences. And if we just take time to just be nice and kind, how that allows us, it sets us up for success for other conversations. It sets us up for success for really being connected and to really help one another out. That's what team is. It's called, let me get to know who you are as a person. I don't need to be in your business, but let's just be kind and compassionate. And from that, it allows us to be what I would like to say, the best humans on earth. It allows us to be good humans to one another. And so while he was affirmed, she was affirmed. It was a win-win for both of them. So this whole notion of workplace bullying and meeting people where they are, it's just about having conversations and being able to tell people exactly how we feel and where we are with the situation and what they would like to see done. And it's incumbent upon HR departments as well as managers to trust and believe people when they come to them, because they wouldn't come to you unless there was something going on. If I had known that I would lose my livelihood, if I had known that I would lose my career, or I should say my job, because my career, I have that. But if I had known that all of what has happened would happen to me, I probably would have said, oh, well, let me think about that again. I don't know. But that's the reality of why people don't speak up. It's because our livelihoods are tied to our existence. And the reality of speaking up sometimes can be detrimental. And I just want us to be in a place where companies are clear that they want to provide a psychologically safe workplace. They want their employees to be productive. And because they're productive, they will then be able to, make more money for the company, because guess what? They are working in a happy environment. They're working in a happy environment.
One of the things that's really cool is a lot of the listeners of this podcast are conscious humans. They truly do give a damn. And hence the name Conscious Habit, right? They want to make consciousness a habit in their life inside and outside of the workplace. And my gut says some of the people listening to your story might be asking themselves, how do I make sure that I am providing a psychologically safe environment? Whether it's my company and I'm like, hey, I'm at the top of the food chain for developing the culture here, or whether they're just somebody who is like, I just work in an organization, but I still want to do my part. what are a couple of either questions people could ask themselves that help them understand that they're being conscious at psychological safety, or maybe to-dos?
I think, as you mentioned earlier, it is really about creating the culture that you want to thrive in. Whether you are the manager or the owner of the company, it is about being consciously intentional about setting the agenda. And people will take their cues from you. People will take their cues from you. If you are the one who was bullying other people, and people understand and see that nothing is going to be done 9 times out of 10, then your culture will reflect that. But if you're the person who is intentionally, consciously making sure that not that everyone's going to be perfect every day, but that we're having those sometimes uncomfortable conversations, and we're going to speak our truth and be able to walk away feeling better about a situation, knowing that we've worked our way through it, that can be so healing in so many different ways. And so it just is about saying, I want to be consciously intentional about how I perform, how I treat other people, and to make sure that if someone doesn't live up to those ideals that we say are important to us, to make the intentional decision to say, this isn't a good fit for you anymore. You might be better somewhere else, because there are organizations that probably will refuse to change. That's where you need to go. That's where you need to be. But in this environment, for me, myself, and I, and the environment that I want to live in and to create for my employees must look like this. And it's okay to say, we need to separate. This relationship is over. So it just means being consciously aware of how we speak to one another, how we treat each other. And if you make a mistake, it's okay. We are human. But to be able to own it, to hold yourself accountable, and to be able to say, I'm sorry, and to do your work to do better and be better. It is so simple. It really, really is. And it starts with having that spirit of kindness and compassion for yourself. Because if you don't love yourself, I think that's part of where, people go wrong, because they don't love themselves. They don't believe that they deserve better. And because of that, they treat other people shabbily. And I just say, when you're a good human being, people feed off of that energy. I mean, case in point, I was in the store the other day in Publix, and I'm just walking through, and I was just happy. I was just happy because I kept thinking that in spite of all of the trials and the tribulations that I've been through, I'm still in a great place. I'm in a place that I love. I'm in an environment that comforts me because I'm getting natural vitamin D. I'm close to the beach. I'm in an environment that really supports me. And as I'm walking on the hygiene aisle at Publix grocery store, this woman walks by me, and I guess I have this spirit of, not an angel, but just, I was happy. And she literally comes back, she goes, ma'am, can I say something to you? And I was like, sure, what? She's like, you just look so happy. And I want to say just thank you. You made me happy watching you. So that goes to show you that we have it within ourselves to be the best for ourselves. And that then will disseminate, and it moves. It creates a spirit and an energy. And when other people feel that you're happy, when people know that you're a good person, they want to be around that, and it makes them happy as well. So we have the answer. It's just called being consciously intentional about being the best person that we can be in every aspect. And if we don't miss the mark, if we miss the mark, it's okay to say, okay, that's on me. Let me back up and let me do my work so that it doesn't happen again. That's what life is. It's a journey. It's a journey. It's about learning and being better.
Love that. Thank you for coming on and courageously continuing to share your story and doing work so that this does not happen to other people. It's just, gosh, it's such an honor to have you on and listen and learn from you. And thank you for doing that work on behalf of many people, for creating this ripple effect of what really can no longer stand. So, Andrea, we're grateful for that. Can you share with us what is going on for you? How do people find out more about what you're doing or connect with you further?
Sure. I have a YouTube page, kind of a show, if you will, called My Silence Is Not for Sale. And that's born out of my own experience that, a lot of times people don't speak up because we are employed by the company. They are paying our paychecks. They are in charge of our livelihoods. So we don't say anything because we don't want to disrupt that. And I totally understand. But My Silence Is Not for Sale came out of my own experience, is that there is no amount of money that you could ever pay me to never speak my truth and to tell the truth to help someone else. There's no amount of money. So my silence is not for sale. You can't pay me. I'm not bought. I can never be bought. So my silence is not for sale on YouTube. I also have that same page on TikTok. Believe it or not, I'm not a big social media girl as it relates to the whole TikTok. I was kind of anti-TikTok. I'm like, well, I can't dance. I can't dance. That's not. And I've come to realize that it's so much more than that. And so I have another page. My silence is not for sale on TikTok. Andrea Moorhead, where you can find me. And it's just been so encouraging to be able to share my story with so many people. And now other men and women are saying, "Oh my gosh, me too." And they're finding strength in my storytelling. People ask me all the time, "What's the biggest story of your career?" And I could say, "Oh, it was my 2000 trip to Australia to cover the Olympics." I could say it was being at the inauguration of our first Black president in the United States. I could say it was doing a documentary in Africa between Indiana University and Moore University to eradicate AIDS. I could say all of those things. And I've never been able to tell anyone exactly what my best and biggest story was. Now I'm saying my story is the most profound, most important, most impactful story of my career and of my life. And if I'm able to help at least one person, and I do mean that, if I'm able to help at least one person to realize their value and to realize their worth and to make a conscious decision to choose themselves first above any and everything else, to choose joy and to provide a life, then what I've gone through will not have been in vain.
So true. Love that. Your work is so important. So thank you. Thank you for joining us and sharing it with our audience.
My honor to serve.
Before we wrap up this episode, here are Des and I's takeaways from Andrea and how you can incorporate them into your lives. You want to kick us off? What's your number one?
My number one, I loved her message that it's such a great reminder we deserve a life of thriving. And in that, Amy, just to remember to listen to your gut, your heart, your soul, and know that you're not alone. You are not alone. And so just understanding to do that listening and towards a life of thriving.
My second one would be speaking your truth, right? So if you're angry, be angry. If it, be comfortable, uncomfortable even, but like say what needs to be said so that you can feel, heard, even if they refuse to hear it, right? You being able to speak your truth, I think is so powerful. And that exercise of her going through with the golf club and beating, writing the names out and beating them. That's another form though of like feeling and speaking your truth. Allow yourself to be angry if you're angry. And then even as she talked about like being joyful, like just being, the thing is on the other side of that anger and frustration and your ability to speak the truth, you get to become a more connected version to you. So I really appreciated that advice.
Yeah. Yeah. It reminds me of, I think it was Brene Brown that says, when we speak into the thing, we speak truth to the thing, it doesn't give it power. It gives us power. So it reminds me of that. Third takeaway is for psych safety to be present, we have to have those uncomfortable conversations, right? We've got to be able to courageously step into our vulnerability, to be able to walk our talk, not just say it, but show it. And we can do that by just simply remembering kindness, right? Platinum rule. And that we're all in this life, this thing together, and just to honor other people. And if we can do that, we can, put down the defensives, put those differences aside, and go towards what's the bigger picture here.
Mm-hmm. I love that. It really is. What a grand responsibility we have that we can either uplift or downgrade every room that we walk into. So just be kind, damn it. Thanks for listening to the Conscious Habit Podcast. If you dug this episode, we'd love it if you would subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. And if you're into this consciousness thing, if you like this conversation and you want to meet more like-minded people, head on over to Facebook and join the Conscious Habit community. Until next time, do the world a favor and go love yourself.